Whenever you're ready, I'm ready. You just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Heather, I'll just get you to quit unsharing, and then when I put you on the agenda, I'll get you to share. Right now, we'll just, you can turn your camera off now too if you want, and we'll just let council open the meeting and do the minutes, and then actually FCSS is ahead of you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's town council meeting. Would someone from council be willing to read the acknowledgement? Councillor Wayne.
Today, I acknowledge that the town of Bruderheim is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis Nation of Alberta. The town of Bruderheim honors the first peoples of this land. We recognize that we stand upon land that carries the footsteps of Cree, Métis, Blackfoot, amongst other nations who have been here for thousands of years. Therefore, the town of Bruderheim has an inherent responsibility to foster healthier relationships with First Peoples and further the calls of action as outlined by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. So we'll call this meeting to order at 7:07 o'clock. And is there any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, administration has one. We'd like to add 5.2 MCS net presentation.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Anything from council? Not hearing anything, we'll move to adopt the agenda. Would someone from council be able to make that motion? Thank you, Councillor Dana.
I motion we adopt the agenda.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the amended agenda? Okay, haven't heard none. We'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So we can move to delegations. And this evening, we're very fortunate. We have folks from Lamont County FCSS with their 2021 annual report, Sarah Rendero and Jody Conley. Welcome and thanks for everything you do for our community. Glad that you're here. You have the floor. And for questions, do you want them after or during, or does it matter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We have a brief presentation, but at any time, if anybody wants to jump in, feel free.
Thanks, Sarah.
So thank you very much to all of you for allowing us to present to Bruderheim Council. Today, we have provided the council with two documents for review. The first being the 2021 annual report from FCSS Lamont County Region, and the second being the Family and Community Support Services Programs and Services Guide for the 2022 year. Just a review, as we do every year, that FCSS is preventative social programming. We are 80-20 partnership with the province of Alberta. We are a multi-municipal program, which means that we also serve town of Lamont, town of Mundare, village of Andrew, village of Chipman, and Lamont County. We are located in the Lamont County Administrative Building, and we also hold a small office in the village of Andrew. We have a complement of 3 staff and 1 program assistant. And we are supervised by a board, which consists of public members of large from each community, as well as council members. And Councillor Dana is our rep right now from Bruderheim. So overview of the 2021 year, as many of you are aware, the vast majority of our programming was done during the COVID-19 pandemic, and subsequent restrictions did limit or modify some of the services we could provide residents. So a lot of the large events were modified to takeout events, and the larger programs were modified to smaller cohorts. That being said, overall, the statistics show that we were able to reach just as many individuals as we did during a regular year. The second highlight that I also like to generally highlight is every year we take into account all of the individuals that we help throughout the county. And those numbers usually at the end of the year can show us trends of need. So for example, in the last 14 years that I've been the director, there have been years in which the Village of Andrew was once identified for a serious gap in senior services. We were seeing a lot of seniors coming in the door. There was a time where we had a lot of family violence concerns in another part of the county. However, in 2021, when all the dust settled, it looked like just a universal graph of services that were proportioned to population. So we had no identified concerns overall for specific areas. So we will concentrate programming in generalized as per population.
Sarah, just a question.
Mhm.
So given that you were able to reach lots of folks, maybe different folks than you usually do, is there going to be a hybrid, or is it going to be totally back to the pre-COVID way of delivering the FCSS?
Actually, the truth is, Mr. Mayor, is that you're very right in I'm assuming your prediction that a lot of service providers are moving to a hybrid model, and that being is because during the pandemic we were able to connect with a lot of new faces utilizing the Zoom and social media and telephone platform. We are also hoping that other service providers, such as psychologists and counselors, many of which who continue to offer Zoom and telephone, will continue to do so into the next year, because they are an amazing service for the rural and remote residents that we serve, especially with the challenges with transportation. That being said, our work plan outlines a full gamut of services that we offered pre-pandemic, in addition to some augmented services to modify to allow for that online component as well. So we will do both.
Okay, thanks. And a follow-up question about demographics and the folks that you're reaching. Did you find that there was a gap for seniors, or was it about the same? Or
seniors are very much in need in one-to-one interpersonal support.
okay,
Yes, so connecting faces, we had to get very creative to reach a lot of our seniors during the pandemic, because the online platform for them, many of them, is just not an option. That being said, telephone is an option. So we were creatively able to reach some of them and offer through telephone, but they much in general, not all, but generally speaking, the vast majority of the population benefits primarily from in-person services.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, the individuals that we were able to hit, a large group that came forward were families, usually, and families with young children that held regular employment. So of course, as you can imagine, a lot of our programs and services are held during the day in the communities. And also there's that other component that shows that a certain age range from approximately 15 years old to about 45 years old, their primary communication method is social media. So by pushing our programs into the social media, we were able to attract a large amount of parents with small children that were connected with us throughout the pandemic. So they also have let us kind of look through that lens of the online programming option, as well as offering programs outside of the regular hours. So evenings, weekends, things like that, to try to attract and maintain those connections with those working families. So
Thank you.
yeah. So that's the biggest, those are the biggest highlights from the statistics that we ran. We have been overall anecdotally that we can point out two things from the people that we've worked with. One is that throughout the pandemic and into 2022, we are noticing that there is a trend of more complex needs in our clientele. Now, overall, we're finding that we're dealing with a lot more clients on a daily basis that require more time. As opposed to before, someone would just come to fill out a form, help assist to fill out a form, or to access the food bank, et cetera. We're finding that people are coming in and it seems that they're waiting much longer until there's a dire need. And then we have to put some real work in. Another thing that has been noticed by not just our FCSSs, but FCSSs provincially, and we've spoke about this at a provincial level, is that FCSSs were hit quite with quite a bit of a workload after the Alberta Supports offices closed down, because of the fact that a lot of the individuals that go there for financial assistance and ultimately applying for financial assistance, applying for age, things of that nature, are now accessing FCSS offices to do so. Of course, we aren't the decision makers when it comes to the application, but anyone who has worked with a family member or a friend to fill out a lengthy age application knows that they do a lot of the time require a lot of one-to-one assistance and advocacy to be able to conquer that task. So there was an announcement from the ministry about a week and a half ago that, that you may have heard, and the Minister of Community and Social Services announced that income support specifically was moving to an online application process. That being said, once again, that still does not bridge the gap for the individuals that have perhaps some type of disability, have some challenges with literacy, have access challenges with accessing technology, and also, you know, our older population as well. So we have no doubt that as long as those offices are unable to meet the needs of the people to meet in person, FCSS offices will be taking the brunt of that load. So just an awareness piece. We're not over capacity. We're working very hard and we believe that we're meeting the needs, but there is a shift in service there that people should be aware of. So that is overall just some highlights on the statistics. Besides that, I won't go through the programs one by one because we would be here for a very long time. That being said, our regular programs were held. There was a few highlights in additional programming. The other highlight I just wanted to touch base on is our elder abuse case manager. This is something that's new to CSS in the last 12 months. We were very successful in obtaining a grant from the Minister of Seniors and Housing. This is an actual intervention-based caseworker. She is a social worker that we employ, and it can be connected to by family members or individuals themselves who are experiencing elder abuse. She then liaises with the RCMP, Victim Services, Alberta Health Services, along with the Rural Elder Abuse Prevention Coalition to provide ongoing advocacy and support for these individuals and help them in the state that they're in. This was a one-year pilot project that officially comes to an end August 31st, 2022. However, we have recently been invited to apply for an additional year of funding and have done so. So we have our fingers crossed that the program will continue because we see a real need for it in our community as we do identify an aging population. So those are the highlights from the report, and I've also provided you with the programs and services guide. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have in regard to FCSS as a whole or FCSS programs specifically, or specific information in regards to the town of Bruderheim.
Thanks for that, Sarah. Is there any questions from our council? I did wanted to ask a couple of things. So I noticed that town of Vegreville was mentioned in one of the programs or reports that you had.
There are two partnerships with the town of Vegreville, one of which is our counseling program. So we, being of course a small grassroots FCSS, does not have the capability to employ a psychologist. So we provide a contract, or we have a contract with the town of Vegreville FCSS that provides a licensed psychologist, and our individuals from the county are able to access them via in person or via Zoom.
Right, thanks. And so I was just curious, do we ever get an opportunity to partner with any folks to the west of us, like Strathcona or Fort Saskatchewan?
We did have a partnership, actually. We used to partner with Vigorville and Fort Saskatchewan for that contract. However, the Fort Saskatchewan FCSS director approached me a couple of years ago and said because the individuals, we still refer individuals there, but because there's such a small amount of individuals that were actually accessing the counseling program, there was no need for an actual contract for reimbursement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
we also have an informal partnership with Families First and with the RCMP from Fort Saskatchewan as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from council? Councillor Len and Councillor Dana.
Well, first, I've been around a long time and I started the FCS in Bruderheim many years ago. And then, of course, it went to the, I think you guys are doing a fine job and I truly support you as a senior. I do use some of your benefits and I think you're doing a great job and keep it up. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Councillor Len. Councillor Dana.
What Len said. No, no. Working next to you ladies and seeing how dedicated and how passionate you guys are about the communities, it's nice to see. And yeah, thank you for everything you do for all the communities around here. You guys do a lot and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dana.
Mhm.
In light of that, I was going to ask is when we get an opportunity to talk to our MLA or MP, is there any kind of advocacy that you would like to see us try to move along? Because you know we're more rural, right? And sometimes the focus is on the bigger municipalities. And for rural Alberta, for our FCSS, is there anything that you'd like us to try to advocate for when we're talking to our other levels of government?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, overall, when we talk as directors, especially at a provincial level, there is a host of us that serve rural and remote areas. And the common theme is that centralization of services is a real concern. Centralization of bringing individuals such as Alberta Health Services when it comes to mental health and addictions. Now, when you used to go to your local AHS or hospital to access a counselor, now you must call the central intake line, which accommodates the entire province. Where you used to walk into your local Alberta Works office, now you must book an appointment by accessing the central intake line, which accommodates the entire province. So centralization really does put a damper and roadblocks on support for rural Albertans, especially when they could literally access these services around the block, but must go through the red tape, delays, and system that is set up that is not conducive to individuals that are in time-sensitive dire need.
Thank you for that. Any grant opportunities that we need to advocate for, or things that would be something that would be of help for the FCSS? You know what I mean? Like you mentioned you're reapplying for that grant. Is that something that would be, obviously there's a need for it, so it shouldn't have to be applied for every year. It should become just a staple.
We would absolutely love for that to be, because I really hope that the province is seeing that the statistics that are being reported after the first 12 months are showing a blatant need for support for our elder population and the concern overall with family violence, especially after COVID.
Yeah, so that specific grant, could we have that information so that when we're talking to our MLA and MP, we can say, you know, there's an example of a specific need that needs to become permanent, not just have to apply for every year and hope that that money might be there in the future.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, I can forward that information to Sherry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Anyone else from Council? Councilor George? And Councilor Wayne?
One of the things I've been just sort of thinking about, do you work very, very closely with the chronically ill people, like as far as programming for them, support systems, whether it be psychological, physical support, income supports and stuff like that, pointing people in the right direction for funding for income and what's the ways to access that support system?
So overall, FCSS is considered ultimately to be, is supposed to be, an FCSS office is supposed to be your main point of contact to, and they should have the education and the knowledge of all the supports in the area. So when you ask me if we're serving the chronically ill, we don't have any specific programs in-house for chronically ill individuals. That being said, we absolutely 100% do have a clientele of individuals with chronic illness, and each one of those individuals we work with one-to-one to tailor their support and advocacy based on their personal needs. So if that is looking for specialized housing, if that's looking for counseling support, if that's looking to advocate for aids to daily living and healthcare, if that's to connect them with community members and decrease isolation concerns, if that is in-home visits where we go and visit them each week to make sure that they're eating properly and that they're making sure that they're taking their medication and keeping up with their doctor's appointments, whatever those individuals need, because we are a grassroots program, we don't have big fancy names for what we do. It is just interpersonal support. And that can mean anything based on your situation.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Wayne.
Just, I guess on the other side of for kids, are you guys gonna be going back into in person for babysitting, home alone, all that summer programs, all that's coming back to full force as soon as possible?
Yes, check your children's backpacks.
My children's backpacks.
Ask your wife.
Not just
Okay.
for candy.
I got 2 of them.
Yeah, all children should have gone home with registration packages for summer programs.
Okay.
Babysitting course Home Alone will start airing in the fall. There'll be no, there is no online summer programming. There is a lot of online activities and stuff that we're posting for the kids online that they can enter contests and stuff like that over online social media. But all of our summer camps are back rolling 100% like they were. So there are 2 weeks scheduled in Bruderheim. There's 2 weeks scheduled in Lamont, Chipman, Mundare. There's also the FRN programming is for 0 to 6 with their parents, and that's rotating around. So that's new because it used to all go to St. Michael. Now we're rotating it around. So Bruderheim will have their own. And when it comes to the babysitting, home alone, those courses, they'll start up in the fall after the kids get back in school. We'll offer the home alone course both in person and remotely as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Wayne. So I guess that would highlight a bit of a question then for kids that are going to school outside of Lamont County. They
Mhm.
might not be bringing that information home in their backpack. So
No, it's posted on social media. It's also posted online. We advertise in the newspaper. And also the package should go out to all the municipalities as well. So if they phone their town office anywhere, they should be able to access it quite easily. The only one thing we don't have that Lamont County doesn't have, unfortunately, is the option for online registration. So they still have to physically, they can phone in and fax their registration, they can scan it, but they have to physically pay by check or cash when they have to show up for the first day of camp. And we recognize that we've gotten some negative feedback about that, but unfortunately, that's not something that's in our wheelhouse to provide.
so that would be something that we could advocate at the Lamont County Council level.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that administration is aware, and yeah, and I think that there are steps being taken. Yeah. So just
Great.
for this year, I hopefully by next year we'll be able to add that option as well.
Great, thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, you betcha.
CAO Pat.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Sarah, is there any, I often talk to council about, we talk about the vulnerable populations, the littles and the elderly. Is there any thoughts about a peer support group for the people in the middle that are helping us hold those 2 most vulnerable populations? Finding that more and more people 20 to 50 are really struggling, and I don't see a lot of programming out there for caregiver support.
It is a huge gap, you're right, in the fact that there are a lot of caregivers, especially during COVID and isolation, that are experiencing mental health challenges, burnout, etc. Our government and our communities and all of us put a lot on those individuals' shoulders. We are dependent on those people. And yeah, it's been a long road. Specifically, have we spoke about it at a board level or a personal level? No, we haven't in regards to a peer support. That being said, if there's a community open to working with us to establish one, we're always absolutely, we can put our resources and our brains to work to come up with some solutions.
Thank you. I seen City of Edmonton has one when I was looking for somebody that was seeking support. And I'm like, it's online and everything. And I was like, that's a pretty cool idea, right? Because people have crazy schedules and yeah, so we can talk offline, but I didn't know if you guys had talked about that at all, because I see that rising as a bigger issue now. So
Absolutely. And yeah, the creativeness of trying to get to those individuals, because of course they have a large caseload of work to do. So when do they find time to take care of themselves, right? Yeah, no, for sure.
Thank you very much for the question. Any other questions from council? Just one quick last one. Homelessness. Do we have a feel for what homelessness is like in our municipalities and in the county?
Homelessness rurally looks a little bit different. There are homeless individuals in every community. A lot of them find connections within the urban municipalities, so the Bruderheim, Lamont, etc. Some of them may show up in tents in your park, things like that. We had one interesting case not long ago where there was one tent that was strategically built in the back of a convenience store. There was, so they are present. We do have a homeless population in the county rural because it's a lot easier not to be bothered. So we have individuals that live in the trees and in their cars or in abandoned buildings. Have we seen an increase in homelessness throughout Lamont County in the last couple of years? I would say not a notable one. What we do for individuals when we come across them and they're in need of housing, usually we need to transfer them outside of the county because usually that's not their only challenge. There are also individuals that we have been very successful in housing within the county, within their communities, and we work with the Lamont County Housing Foundation to do that. They assist us to access housing, not just within our seniors lodges and stuff, but also private rentals that can be subsidized through the foundation so that we can relocate individuals that are experiencing homelessness. But we do have a population of homeless individuals that choose to be so.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mhm.
And if there's no further questions, I'd like to echo the comments that thanks very much for a great job. We very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. This is my board chair, Jody Conley. I've been doing all the talking, so I'd like to invite her. Do you have anything you'd like to share with council?
Well, I was just going to say to Carl, saw you 8 years ago. I'm still here on the board and more passionate than ever, right? So yeah, how can you not support this? I've been doing it like 10 years now for free. I don't even get mileage. It costs me to show up to these things. So, right. And so Sarah's because Sarah's like the encyclopedia of FCSS. I'm like the TikTok video. So but I'm just here to advocate the support from Bruderheim because you guys have been awesome to us. And we have we have all of Lamont County now, which is awesome. And we're helping so many people, but we need everyone's support, right? It's a community. We need to take care of each other. So just make sure like your administration and stuff know about us. And if someone comes to them and they're like, we're having issues, give them FCS's number. Because if they can't fix it, they can find someone else who can. Like it's just absolute, because I was going to share one story with one of our Andrew guys. He was coming in to get his taxes done, right? Just the free tax program for seniors. And so she's helping him with his taxes and he needs a physical address. Well, he's living in his car. They didn't know that. No one knew that. And so through that, she was able to get him the resources to find him housing. And it all just started with the tax prep. So you don't know where the people are going to come from. It's great.
Thank you for your volunteer service.
Well, thank you for your mayorism.
Yeah, but again, we just very much appreciate the efforts that you guys put forward.
Thank
and,
you.
Thanks for taking the time to come and see us this evening and talk
They're
to us.
amazing. Thank you.
Yep. So we were looking for a motion from council to receive their information as their report as information. Thank you, Councillor George. Drive safe.
I make a motion that the FCSS report be received as information as presented.
Thank you, Councillor George. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Okay, haven't heard none. We'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So now we can move on to our next delegation, 5.2 from MCS Net. I believe we have Heather standing by.
Hi, good evening. Just testing my audio and video.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. Again, yeah, I'm Heather Starshelski. I'm a business development manager with MCS Net. I do have a presentation that I believe you do have in front of you, but I am able to share my screen if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay. One moment, please. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me here this evening. I really do appreciate having the alternative to actually Zoom in. I'm not that far away. I'm actually, MCS Net is just out of St. Paul, Alberta, so we're about an hour from Bruderheim, give or take. I had the opportunity to actually come to your recent dinner that you had as part of a meet and greet, and I do want to say thank you for that invitation to Mayor Carl. That was an excellent opportunity to get to see your little town and to get to know more people that actually, you know, in that area. Bruderheim is in our service area with MCS Net, but we are looking at hoping to bring better broadband for you. So tonight's presentation, I'm going to begin and I'm going to advance the slides, but please at any time, if you have any questions, just jump in and I will try to go fast because I realize you do have a lengthy agenda probably, and it is an evening meeting and I'm sure it's been a long day for all of you. I can appreciate that. So first of all, about MCS Net. MCS Net is a family-owned business. It's operated out of St. Paul, as I mentioned earlier. It is actually one of Canada's largest wireless internet service providers that is in operation in the telecom industry throughout Canada. We have an infrastructure of over 539 towers. We have 3 rural fiber to the premise, so FTTP networks in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Those 3 fiber to the premise networks are actually in Cherry Grove, Mallaig, and Fort Kent, so not far from you. We have 25,000 fixed wireless subscribers, so that's what we call as our customers. And we've actually been in business since 1994, but in 2015, we started to prioritize our capital investments on building extensive transit fiber in our network. So that's trying to connect by fiber our fixed wireless towers, which is partly what I'm here to talk to you about today. Our vision is high-speed internet with everyone. And if anybody's familiar with the CRTC, they have a very ambitious goal that by 2030, they want to see every home across Canada connected, achieving speeds of 50 megabits per second up and 50 megabits per second down, or sorry, 10 down, 50 up, 10 down. So that's an ambitious goal by 2030, but it is something that they are on track of right now. Our core values are our core values are integrity, respect, courtesy, communication, teamwork, and accountability. And our culture for our company is actually to treat customers and fellow coworkers with dignity, respect, courtesy, and fairness. Our business is right here in St. Paul. Our helpline is right here in St. Paul. It is not somewhere where you're calling and you're receiving automated phone calls or whatnot. We are on the same time zone. It's something that is very dear to us to ensure that our customers receive the best possible customer care once they are one of our customers. Tonight, I want to talk to you specifically about an opportunity that is actually perfect for the town of Bruderheim. It's called Gig Air. It is our latest technology that offers fiber speeds through the air. It is fast, cost-effective. It is actually an alternative to fiber in the ground. Those of you that are familiar with fiber optic, which is typically dug underground, there's some overhead, but mostly it is underground. Gig Air is an alternative to that. So it's wireless speeds that are through the air working from a mesh network that operates by connecting multiple nodes on a 60 gigahertz band that is on a self-organizing network. By self-organizing, what I mean by that is that if one radio goes down, it actually has that intuitive smart technology where it finds another radio and connects them and finds a new path to keep delivering service to customers. It actually has bidirectional streams, meaning top up and top down of 1,000 megabits per second, which is up and down. So when you consider 1,000 up, 1,000 down compared to the goal of 50-10, it is significantly far higher. And it's actually on par with our Fiber 1000 package, where we do have fiber to the premise. Gig Air is perfect for the town of Bruderheim, as I was mentioning before, because of the short node radios that it works on. It actually works best in more densely populated communities, so hamlets, towns, industrial parks, whatnot. Because of that 250 meter limitation, it will actually go from one node to the next, so from one building to the next, or from one tower to a building, and so forth. And I'll get a little further into that as I'll show you in this next diagram. So it does require a strong, reliable network. It can be deployed from a tower to a building, from a building to a house, etc. It requires an unobstructed view, which meaning that, if there is a tree in the way, it's going to have an issue. That being said, we are able to actually do fantastic things. It doesn't always have to require a tower. It can be from one building to a building to a building, as long as it's fiber fed. That's what offers the actual 1,000 megabits up and 1,000 megabits down, is by actually having the fiber that is underground, that is feeding the network from one radio to the next in that mesh. In order to build a robust and reliable network, what we do ask with the municipality that we partner with is that we have access to your existing infrastructure. And by existing infrastructure, what I mean, if we can place a radio on one of your buildings, whether that be maybe a public works building, whether that be maybe an arena, whether that be your FCSS building, depending on what kind of infrastructure you have in your community, that helps us to build the network out. As part of that, we would also look at our existing customers that we have in the town of Bruderheim, and we would automatically upgrade them to this service. So how would it look? First of all, we would look and discuss, like we are tonight, with regards to a partnership with the town of Bruderheim by way of a written agreement and a council resolution. What we are going to offer, which is significant savings and opportunity for the town of Bruderheim, is to actually bring fiber to the town. Right now, we have fiber that is out on Highway 15, so that is just south of town, about 3.3 kilometers away. We are looking at doing a build this construction this August, I want to say, is what we're hoping for as our projected date, maybe is September. It all kind of depends on permitting. There's a few things that we have to go through, being that there's a couple of rail lines that we would have to cross, so we have to look at permitting that happens at a municipal, provincial, and a federal level. But that being said, we would hope to have a start for September 1st. But what we are looking at as an estimated cost savings to the town of Bruderheim of 100 to 125,000, which would be fully funded by MCS Net. So what we are proposing is that we would actually bring fiber from our existing tower that is just south of Highway 15 down 45 into the intersection of where you have 45 and 45 intersect, come up just slightly into town where you have the fire hall. And we would actually bring fiber right to the fire hall. And then from there, we would deploy our Gig Air network, which would consist of a radio. A Gig Air network requires a point of presence, so a POP, a POP, kind of is the term that you hear out there. And we would deploy from that point of presence, and we would establish other ones within the community, whether it be with existing clients, customers, or perhaps some nonprofits that we could partner with by giving them free internet by having deploying on their infrastructure one of our radios, and that would build this mesh network out. So I'm just moving to the next slide here. So you can see, here's an overview from Google Earth of the Bruderheim, the town of Bruderheim. And you guys are perfect because of the densely population that you have, and you aren't terribly landscaped. By terribly landscaped, I mean there's not a lot of obstruction. So you kind of have three. You have your center of town, you have two outlying little neighborhoods within the community. And then of course we can see right where your fire hall is, where there's the opportunity, where it's almost in the center of town, that we could actually deploy the network. With 502 dwellings, we did notice, and dwellings, when I talk about dwellings, that is your businesses, your houses, those types of, they're actually have occupied space. One thing we did note is that we didn't have a ton of customers, of MCS Net customers. So that shows us one thing that is happening in the town of Bruderheim, is that there isn't a lot of competition. And we think that is something that actually would help the community and help your broadband overall, is when there is healthy competition, it actually enhances services overall for everyone, is a win-win. So the proposed fiber construction, just moving along here so you guys can see this better. The proposed fiber construction, you can see, as I was mentioned before, would actually come down Highway 45, and it would then come through 52nd Avenue and then come up through, I believe it's called Queen Street, into Bruderheim Fire Station. Now, we picked the fire station, as I mentioned before, because it is central, and I did have some early discussions with your administrators just to kind of get an idea of what would be a desirable location. The fire station is one that, you know, makes probably the most sense because it is probably one that is heavily utilized and would benefit the most from a fiber to the premise construction with regards to your alarm systems and the technology that would be required to help deploy your emergency systems. You know, if there is another location, there's something definitely we could also discuss. You know, maybe you prefer a town office, but that's not further down the street. It's not that much further down the street, I should say. So that's also something that could be up for an option as opposed to the Bruderheim Fire Station. What does the technology look like? So in the next slide here, you'll see what the radios actually look like. There's 3 different ones I'm showing you. There's a 1000, there's a 5000, and a 3000. The 1000 is to the far right. That is our typical antenna that you would see on a business or a house that offers that short node. The next ones you see are a 3000 and a 5000, so slightly bigger, but those are what we call our POPs. So those are our point of presence radios that actually offer the gigair to be deployed throughout a larger space within the community. So the one you see the far left, that is a 5000 that's on a house. That's what we'd be looking at putting on your fire station. So the fiber would be fed directly to the fire station, wired to the roof of the radio, wired to the roof with the radio, and then it would deploy from there with the wireless signal throughout over the gigahertz, 60 gigahertz, megahertz, 60, sorry, it's been a long day, 60 megahertz signal band that would actually deploy to the rest of your community with that mesh network. Now, when I talk about a mesh network, it's like a spider web. So it goes from one link to the next, to the next, to the next, creating those outline network. What does pricing look like? So as I mentioned earlier, MCSnet is willing to do the full funding of the fiber to the premise to the fire hall, which is an estimated cost of $100,000 to $125,000. And then you would have the opportunity for your residents and your businesses in your town to sign up for our gigair packages and pricing. So this slide here depicts exactly what we're talking about with regards to the pricing. You'll see our best value is $89.95 a month, which gives you 1000 megabits per second up and 1000 megabits down. So that's that bidirectional stream that I was talking about earlier. You'll see there's other packages as well that are available with regards to gigair ultra, gigair advanced, and gigair basic. The unlimited is just that. It is unlimited. There are no caps. So if you compare that to probably what is out there right now, this is an excellent value. This is actually being deployed right now in other communities that are like size. For example, we are deployed in Vilna, we are in Ashmont, we are in St. Paul, we are actually deploying right now in Glendon, and we have plans this fall for Elk Point and Legal. And actually Elk Point is actually starting here in July and Legal soon after, as well as Ardmore. So partnership, as I mentioned, we would be looking at bringing in a value of $100,000 to $125,000 fiber, which is a fairly significant contribution from MCSnet. What we would want in return for that is a long-term agreement where we would connect our fiber to the premise to, for example, the fire station. And by long-term, I'm talking about a term of approximately 10 years. And of course, that could be up for more discussion. But we're looking typically at a 10-year agreement for fiber to the premise where we would have gigair deployed from as a point of presence at the fire station. And then we would have points of renewal that we could have within the draft. So whether it be, every 5 years or every 3 years, et cetera, after that, but that of course is up for negotiation. We would also hope that you would also assist with marketing. And by that, what we've done in other communities is that we've actually included like a small brochure in the utility drop, which ensures that when it goes into the utility, it's only going to those customers that we can actually serve. As I mentioned earlier, it works by shortwave radio, so 250 meters or so, and a bit more from one radio to the next. So it's not actually for the acreage dwellers. This is specifically for those that are within your municipal boundary of Bruderheim. We want to ensure that we don't disappoint our customers and that we're able to provide this service of quality. And then that's where it helps that we have that partnership, that we're actually, subscribing or sorry, promoting only to subscribers that can actually, obtain the service. So that partnership is part of that with regards to marketing, but we would also look, as we had said earlier, about leveraging existing infrastructure. So if we can put a radio on, let's say, a public works building or a water treatment building, anywhere essentially where there is power that is part of the municipality, we can actually deploy the network further and ensure that we have a good base for everybody that is within your community. We've also done partnerships with other nonprofits where we've actually provided free Wi-Fi hotspots, so a complimentary hotspot. So for example, let's say it's your arena or in your Ag Society, for example, those nonprofits would also be eligible to have an existing hotspot and free internet in order for us to actually help build the network. So for example, in the town of St. Paul, we have complimentary hotspots at the Aquatic Center, we have in a couple of arenas, we have at a campground, we have actually just grown it as well into their Ag Society. So several areas in the town of Vilna, or Village of Vilna, I should say, we actually have a gig air hotspot right in the Seniors Lodge, which has been a huge opportunity for the seniors in order to engage in programming and have experiences with their families and loved ones, especially during the time of COVID, where it's been difficult to actually have those in-person relationships due to the different stages we've been in throughout the last 2 years. So it's a huge benefit for everybody in your community, and it's something that we like to in order to give back and just make sense. So what we'd be looking for, as I mentioned, would be an agreement. We would also hope that there would be a resolution or motion passed, and this is just a sample of one, and I had shared some with your administration as well of ones that have been done in other communities, of what we would be looking for in regards to a partnership. And really, it's a win-win, but, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'd like to open it up for questions. And I know I do speak fast, but I want to ensure that you guys have a lot of opportunity. So please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for that speed read, Heather. I appreciate that. We have a couple councillors with questions, Councillor Len and then Councillor Wayne.
I have two questions.
Sure.
Okay, I see your monthly cost. What is the cost for the individual towers on the houses? Who's paying for that? You guys or the individuals hooking up?
So actually, it depends on the promotion that we're running within the community. For example, in St. Paul, we actually had free installation, and actually it was 6 months free gig air for them to actually have. In the community of Vilna, those that were existing MCS Net subscribers, they actually just were free upgrades to the existing service. And for some of that actually meant that their bill went down. So maybe they were paying $99.95 a month previous on our fixed wireless rate, and it actually went down to, let's say, $89.95 a month because they wanted the gig air unlimited. For those that are brand new customers, they're looking at an install on a 2-year term of $199, and then they get to pick whichever service they want, those rates that I had shared with you previously.
And the second question, this is everybody, people can opt out of it, right? You don't have to sign up.
Correct. Yeah, nobody has to sign up for it. I mean, it's completely up to them. Even our existing customers, you have a choice. You can either sign up or you don't have to, but I honestly wouldn't know why you wouldn't want to. It's 1,000 times faster almost than what you're already receiving.
But,
so sorry?
But okay, I know for the speed it's computer, but what about for television services and stuff like that? Is that part of this or no?
No, but what a lot of people are doing is that they're cutting the cord and they're doing subscription services. So whether they're going through, let's say, Netflix, Crave, they're subscribing to Sportsnet, most people are actually seeing a reduction in their monthly television charges because they're able to pick and choose as opposed to having to take a package through a cable provider or through a direct satellite provider. You're able, instead of having to get a whole bunch of channels that maybe you only really relatively watch, maybe 5 to 10 reliably, you can actually pick and choose through your streaming services, because with $89.95 a month, you have unlimited choice, right?
So you're not going to give an option of like a packages, an option to various channels, like all the news channels and sports channels and stuff like that.
No, but what you can do is you can choose those on your own, right? You don't have to have a bundled service. You can actually pick and choose. I know a lot of households have actually completely, like I said, cut the cord, and they don't actually want to have maybe 200 channels. They actually want to have only the 20 that they watch, and they're having significant savings by not having to bundle services.
Heather, I
that-
think he's asking, how would you do that? They're used to getting like the Shaw
Right.
TV package. So I don't
Okay.
think it's completely clear how you go online and get those, I think is the question.
Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar, that there's several providers out there that actually where you can subscribe, and through technology like Chromecast or a Roku, or online through your computer, or Apple TV. With actually our packages, I should mention, with our Gig Air, you actually get a free Chromecast, which is a $70 value. So it's actually a small device that is maybe smaller than the size of a mouse, I guess I'll put it like that, of an actual mouse. It actually, you hook it up to the back of your device, your TV, or whatever you're watching it on, and it actually receives, the internet through your home. So it's on your Wi-Fi, and you can actually subscribe to, let's say, Netflix for $12.95 a month, depending what package you choose, or Crave for $8.95 a month, and you have a wealth of channels on there, or Amazon Prime, which actually has all of your global news, or CTV. There's so many apps that will appear on the Chromecast where you can actually see your choice on there, your TV channels that you want to choose from, Sportsnet, TSN. There's so many to choose from. It's actually in one of our brochures where I could share with you, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Global, Tubi, Cineplex Store, YouTube, CTV, UFC. There's so many bundled services. And like I say, some of them are only $4.95 a month. Some of them are $12.95. It depends what you want. But most people actually see by cutting the cord, which you don't have to do. You can still keep your Shaw cable service, but you could also have internet through MCS Net, where you're actually having those significant speeds and no caps. Does that help explain it a little bit better? Sorry, I can't hear you.
I just want to see what was available, the cost structure, and a few things like that, because all people, like a lot of people, like me, I'm not a computer buff, so I really don't care about a high speed. I mean, I can walk over to the neighbor's house if I want to. But
Fair enough.
the thing is, a lot of us, like I'm a sports fanatic, and I have to watch NFL football. So, and I want, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose none of that stuff.
Yeah, no,
So
completely.
that's,
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and what you will find, if you, let's say, are, for example, a Shaw subscriber for your TV services, let's say, Shaw actually has, what do I want to call it? I think it's called Blue Curve app, where you can actually subscribe. You don't have to subscribe. It's actually just part of your service that you have with Shaw. And I'm not a Shaw expert, so I'm not their rep, but you can actually get all of your Shaw channels online as well. So just FYI, if you are a Shaw subscriber, that is something that is available to you, and you could certainly inquire with them. So if you're at a hotel, for example, or on vacation, you could actually log into the Blue Curve app, and you would see all of your Shaw subscription channels that you're actually subscribing to. But I think what's important to know is that this is more than just TV we're talking about, right? We're talking about doing business remotely. We're talking about educating students, whether it be post-secondary or high school or elementary. We're talking about those remote opportunities for your businesses, for e-commerce, for all of those things to happen and not have to actually be buffered, and to have unlimited use where you can have 5 people in your household on at the same time, right? It's not just about television or about entertainment.
Thank you. I think you answered Councillor Len's question sufficiently. Councillor Wayne?
Thank you. Just so there's zero cost to the town if this were to go, right? That's just you guys cover the cost and then the rest goes to the residents that want to purchase.
Exactly.
Okay.
Correct. It's a significant savings. And when I had initially discussed it with, as an option, with your administration, just as previous conversations, we had talked about a cost share at that time. And then I took it back to my upper management at MCS Net and just kind of, had the opportunity, because I had been able to drive around town and see actually how the situated of the dwellings. And I was like, wow, this community is a perfect candidate for Gig Air, our latest technology, because of, like I say, the denseness of the dwellings and the proximity of the houses and the buildings from one spot to the next. So it actually is perfect for this mesh network called Gig Air.
Okay. And you say that the tower, if it were on the fire hall, it would need an unobstructed view, right? Of everywhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, with the height of what the fire hall is right now, there is no obstruction. So basically what we've been looking at is, let's say, going from the fire hall to maybe we might approach like maybe the Ag Society, or maybe back to one of the town buildings or one of the businesses, but it basically just creates from one node to the next. We would just create those radios on each of the different structures within 250 meters. And before you know it, you have your entire town served.
So there'll be no issue at all if it's lagging in one side of town, you guys will take care of that. Is that
Exactly. What we would do is then we would be looking at either an existing customer and upgrading them, on their approval, of course, or what will happen is that maybe one part of town will be a little bit behind until the rest of the town has enough customers, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It depends on, the buy-in from your existing residents and businesses and whatnot. But what we've seen so far, and of course, you guys are welcome to talk to other villages and towns that we are serving right now. But what we have seen is that people are just, they want to get on it. They can't get on it fast enough. It's building it fast enough for them.
Is it possible you talked about the pamphlets.
Mhm.
Is it possible to get a copy of that to take a look
Yep.
at?
You
And
bet.
then maybe some list of some other municipalities that currently have this and see how it's going for them. And
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I can send that on to your CEO and she can disperse it to you. As I mentioned, we actually started in St. Paul last fall. The town of St. Paul was our first one. They have about a population just over 5,000. So they're very similar in size to yourself. The one thing with the community of St. Paul is that they have a bit more competition because they actually have TELUS fiber in the community already. But we are still growing exponentially there, because one thing that you will find with fiber builds, when fiber is done in a community, it gets done, and then it might be years and years before it gets done again, right? So meanwhile, you have new subdivisions, you might have industrial parks that have been added on, and they are being underserved because the fiber has already come through town once. So for them to actually come back and actually do the fiber, it's usually on the owner's dime to do it, whether that be a homeowner or a business, and it can be quite expensive. An example of a case of where this happened actually just this last fall was in St. Paul, where we had a business that actually relocated. They went from being from a fiber fed dwelling to another part of town with a much larger building, but there was no fiber in that part of town. They didn't realize that when they took that into account when they moved their business, and they were like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? This is critical to us. We can't have 40 megabits per second up and 10 down. We need a 1,000 up, 1,000 down. But there's no fiber in that part of town because it's a part of town that came on later on, right, when fiber was already run through town. So we actually were able to hook them up with Gig Air within 3 days, and they were ready for their grand opening, and way to go. And they had fiber through the air.
this may be a silly question because I just don't know. Does severe weather all that kind of affect this? Does that?
Great question. Great question. We have actually, it's been a good one because we've been, trying to test throughout, because it is, a wireless signal through the air. And so far we have had no issues whatsoever. Other communities, we are, like I said, right now, Vilna, Ashmont, Ardmore, Glendon. We are going to be in Elk Point next month, then Legal, and so forth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dana, then Councillor George.
So you're like the hot spots are like the kind of like how Shaw does their guest things, like
Correct.
what you know what the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
What are we? Is it going to be limited to stuff? Because I know when you automatically connect to buildings off of the shared one, like the visitor one, you can't log into everything. Is yours the same way? Are you gonna be limited to access? Like, are we not gonna be able to go on a YouTube video or go on Facebook or TikTok or, you know what I mean?
No, great question. No, it's actually no freezing out of any sites. So literally, I've had great conversations, like for example, with the CAO in the town of St. Paul. He's like, thank you for, having high speed at the aquatic center, because I was able to actually take a meeting, via Zoom and watch my kiddo do their swimming lessons at the same time. Meanwhile, their other kiddo is sitting on the floor watching Netflix, and there's, maybe 40 people all on at the same time. To give you an idea of what 1 gig up and 1 gig down does, that would do an entire school, right? They could all be on at the same time. It's phenomenal speeds and phenomenal bandwidth. But no, we do not freeze out or refrain from access from anything, from whether it be TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. There's no limitations.
Perfect. Yeah, because there's nothing worse when you're outside and you're trying to search something and you have to shut off your Wi-Fi, you forget to turn it back on. You know what I mean? The other thing is maintenance with it. What is the maintenance that's required with your system? And if something fails on it that, I don't know, weather related, who takes care of that?
So that's all MCS net. There's not really any maintenance with regards to, upkeep, but, occasionally, let's say if something which fail, which could happen with any type of technology out there, right? We are in the area, which is, excellent. We're next day service, if not same day service. Of course, there's always things that could happen like a snowstorm or something like that, where we can't get there right in the same day. But I mean, that's rare, extremely, extremely rare. But wow, we've had some interesting weather this past year. But no, we are next day service. And like I say, we have actually contractors throughout our entire service area of Northeast Alberta. We're not just out of St. Paul, right? We have people that are right in your community as well. Our help desk is actually 24 hours, and it is right here in St. Paul. So just as an FYI to that.
Is there a cost to have you guys come out for repairs?
No cost.
Okay, thank you for the question, Dana. Councillor George?
We have also in the close proximity to where you want to put your main radio tower, signal tower. How would that affect your communication system?
Okay. Is that the tower that's at the arena?
That is correct.
Okay, good question. It actually has no effect on us because we're on the 60 gigahertz band, which I was talking about. So we're actually on a completely different band than that telecommunications tower that you have there right now. I had to do a little bit of exploring to find out actually who owned that tower because I wasn't certain. That tower is being fed off of, I believe, the SuperNet. So that's Bell. And I believe you guys are co-locating a couple services off of there right now. I can't remember exactly if it's Sturgeon County or who is actually helping you with some of your tech over with your town facilities, but no, there's no conflict there whatsoever when it comes to signals or anything, because we're on a completely different band.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor George. Councillor Ashley and then CAO Pat.
So I live on the opposite side from the fire hall. So if I was going to get your internet services, then would I have to have a radio on my roof for it to work?
Correct. Yeah. Everybody that's going to get internet services would have one of those radios on their roof. So it's smaller than your typical satellite dish. If you have one already, I'm not sure. I think the shock is that cable, coaxial cables going to your home, I believe. I didn't really notice a ton of dishes when I drove through Bruderheim. Yeah. So they're small in size, less than the size of a Kleenex box.
And then, so on my side of town, if there's not a lot of people who have your services, then my internet essentially will be slower until more people come on board, correct?
Actually, it wouldn't be slower. We just can't build it to you until there is enough people. So let's say, I'm going to guess, are you across, are you on the side where the school is?
No, I'm on the opposite end,
Okay.
like by the ball diamonds.
Yep, gotcha. Okay, yeah, I did a good drive around there. It's actually, I was amazed. I was ready to move there, actually. It was really cute. So over there on the other side, yeah, what we would do is we look at existing infrastructure. And like I say, we would try to build the web. So we would look at, if there's maybe a place where we can deploy a radio from, whether there be a water treatment, whether there would be, an existing customer, maybe there's a nonprofit, maybe there is a charitable group that we can work with, by providing them free internet or a free hotspot, et cetera, or both. Then we can deploy to that other part of town where it looks like a little bit newer construction. When I took a drive through there, I noticed there's a bit of a greenway that kind of goes between the main part of town and that subdivision, if I'm correct. Yeah. But basically what we would do is we would work with your administration to see, what are some assets that we could help deploy the network in order to build it out faster, right? Always keeping in mind, we're trying to be within that 250 meter, threshold in order to build it out. It really doesn't take that long because most people, if they're typically $89.95 a month is extremely decent pricing for the value you're receiving. And most people are wanting to sign up as quick as they can. So we don't find it that challenging to build the network out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Ashley. CAO Pat.
Yeah, just Heather, I just wanted to remind council that all of our buildings are connected with radio link. So when we did our upgrades through that grant for the council chambers and EOC, we converted all our buildings to radio. So they already are. So this is our main, it's kind of the same thought. The main tower is here and we only pay internet now to the fire hall, not to the rest of the buildings. And it sends all the way to the public workshop, the arena, the town office at community hall. So it's the same thing and it works very well. And like Heather said, the winter was a really rough winter and we had no outages at all with that. And we have a lot of programs running at the water treatment plant and the lagoons and all that, that's uploading and downloading some pretty significant numbers, as well as the arena. The ice plant and all of that is constantly talking to our public works staff and and we've had no issues with that radio link. So I just wanted to add that, Heather, I reminded to council.
No,
Thank
that's
you.
great. Thank you. I appreciate that. So
Thank-
yeah, you've said it well. It actually is just looking to serve the rest of your town, right? Like, so you've experienced that wireless signal and how it does work for your existing infrastructure. And like I say, we're just talking about putting some small antenna radios that, size of a Kleenex box, a little bigger on maybe your fire station, but not much, in order to deploy it to the rest of your community. One thing that you are limited with your existing system is that you are getting whatever speeds that are actually being fed through that tower that you have right now. So you might have a contract or whoever is providing you that service right now that limits that you can't give that to all of the customers in your, or all the community members in your community, right? So all your residences, and this is newer technology, so it is up and coming.
Thank you for the question, Councillor RCAO Pat. Councillor Wayne has a question.
Just a quick question. You mentioned earlier if there's obstruction with trees and stuff, that signal will not go. Is that correct?
It will have more difficulty. So you would see more buffering, but that's something when our actual installers come out, they test it before they actually just install it, right? They're going to take a look at the line of sight, where they're installing it, typically on the fascia, on the side of a house or a building. So they actually want to make sure they're getting the best place, for that unobstructed view. If they come out there and they say, hey, you know what? This tree is going to be in the way, and you're adamant as a homeowner that, well, no, this is where it has to go. Well, we're going to be full, upfront and say, well, it's not going to work effectively, right?
Yeah, because the reason I'm asking, because you talk about having another station or another tower at, say, Public Works, but that is surrounded in trees, right? So how do we get a signal from there to?
You'd still be surprised. Like, I haven't looked at the Public Works building, and that's why I say we would have to work with your administration to see where the best opportunities are. What we can do is we can put some radios on a mast, so it can be a little bit higher up, right? So we would actually look at those different alternatives based on this, what is actually there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Any other questions from council? I wrote down a few questions that I wanted to ask Heather, and I appreciate your enthusiasm for bringing this to us. So I very much appreciate that. So competition, absolutely, I agree. Competition is good and adds more choice for our residents. Is a good thing. The tallest building in Bruderheim is actually the hotel, and I'm just wondering why you wouldn't be looking at the tallest building, or does it matter after a certain height?
No, excellent question. We would actually probably be approaching them as well, because I did note that building at the end of the block. The reason why we do actually, want to partner with municipalities, because we're looking for that long-term stability, right? Whereas a private business or dwelling could change hands, right? We want to ensure that if we're going to bring this to your community and do a significant investment of, $100,000 to $125,000, that it's going to stand the test of time, right? This is a significant contribution from MCS Net. So we're also looking at it as a business case, right? It has to make fiscal sense for ourselves as well.
Absolutely. One of the providers recently provided some information that provides high-speed internet through cable, that they already provide 1,000 megabytes per second, maybe on their best day, on their most expensive service. I'm not sure, but a lot of their issues is system crashes, and just wondering, on average per month, how many times does it go down MCS Net service? Is there any kind of information that way?
I can look at supplying with that information. I don't have anything off the top of my head, but to be quite honest with coaxial, it is still having to share. So when the coaxial line is coming in, it's splitting off to all those different houses, right? Whereas this, you're getting your own signal from one to the next. It's not actually splitting the signal to all the different houses down the street, if that makes sense. I could probably send you a couple diagrams that would maybe explain it a little bit better, but you're actually not having to split the bandwidth, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, great. Like you mentioned, we're going to get some information. That would be great.
Sure.
So say a homeowner has MCS net and he has to get new shingles put on.
Mhm.
Does MCS net come out and remove that device and then put it back in again? And is there a charge for that?
Yeah, so what happens if there needs to be like a move of it because let's say tin or whatever, or shingles, etc. They would just call our 1-800 number and we would schedule, we'd have a ticket put in and our our contractor would come out and they would move the actual radio, temporarily and set it aside. Maybe if it's going to be a week or two to get the shingling done, who knows, that you can still get service. We would try to make sure that you're still up and running. Depending on what they're wanting to do, if this is really, typically we don't charge, but if this is a really, unique, it's hard to say, like, are they just painting something on the side and, we might charge if it's, but typically, no, we do not charge for that.
Okay, and that's a contractor that would be doing that, not an MCS net employee.
No, it is a contractor that works for MCS net.
Okay, and so we talked about technology changing, and so if it advances in the future and you have a number of customers in town, then they would be afforded the same opportunity if things improve to be able to get that service and that kind of thing. Just wondering, because technology is always changing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is definitely. And like I say, this is newer technology that has just come to MCS net here in the past, since last summer, basically, we've been working on this. And of course, if there's technology improvements, which there has been even since then, we are seeing even faster speeds at longer distances, for example. I talked about that 250 meters. We've been able to do it even up to 500 meters, but we don't like to advertise that because it's not something that, we've tested completely. But we were very confident when they're within 250 meters. But as I say, the radios keep improving. So as those improve, we also will go out and we'll replace where we can, but right now we are seeing excellent service with our existing technology.
Yeah, thank you. You answered another one of my questions about limits. There are folks in the region that live on farms and acreages that have the MCS net in our region. I wanted to ask, someone notices that the town is going to get MCS net coming. If people sign up tomorrow, are they still going to be able to get the improved deal, or do they have to be from last week kind of thing?
No. So essentially, let's say, we get an MCS net customer in the next month or 2 months or whatever from the Bruderheim area and whatnot. We're just going to go in, let's say, once the fiber construction is complete, which I'm predicting to be between September, October, like if we go forward with this, we'll just come in and upgrade them for free, right? They don't have to. And like I say, they might even see a reduction in their monthly cost.
Yeah, that's great. And my last question is, we've been told by other providers that one of the things that they would do first or would want to see happen first is a survey to see what people are actually getting for high-speed internet speeds. Sounds like we don't need to worry about that step with going with you folks.
That's an excellent question because no, we don't require that at all. And some providers out there, what they want to see is they want to see so many subscribers before they'll even start. Right? They want to actually see, okay, we need half the town to sign up, or we need, this much interest before we'll come. What we're looking for is just commitment from the town to assist us with bringing fiber to the fire hall at our cost so that we can actually begin this deployment.
Great, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Does anyone else from council have any questions? So I imagine that there'll be more discussion about this, and thank you so much for the presentation, Heather.
You're welcome.
Very much appreciate it.
Just with closing comments, just so you are aware, like I did say, there are some railway lines that would have to be crossed. So permitting can take some time at the federal level. So if this is something, not that I want to pressure or anything like that, but just if it is something that your town is willing and wanting to do within this construction year, we would have to move sooner than later just to start those permitting processes in order to beat the next winter. That's all. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. We appreciate that. So be looking for a motion from council to accept this information from MCS net as information. Councilor Wayne.
Make a motion to receive the information from MCS net as information.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion from council? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Good
Thank you,
evening.
Heather.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you, Heather.
Okay, moving on to 6.1, adopt minutes of June 1st, 2022. We'll be looking for a motion from council to adopt the minutes from that meeting. Councillor Ashley,
Motion to adopt minutes from June 1st, 2022 regular meeting of council.
thank you, Councillor Ashley. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the motion on the minutes from the last meeting? You might note that someone different had to do the motion to adjourn the meeting. If there's no comments, questions, or concerns, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Now we can move on to council priorities, information requests, and we'll start with Councillor Dana. Any information requests?
Not today. Thank you.
Councillor Len,
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Wayne,
Yeah, I just curious, the playground for the school is gonna be done or started July, right? Has there been a presentation or picture of what's being planned?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, no, we haven't received anything yet.
Is it possible to get something for next council meeting somehow, maybe somehow from them? Because I mean, we're paying for a large portion of it and I'd like to see what we're doing.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, will contact the school.
Thank you.
thank you for the question, Councillor Wayne. Councillor Ashley,
A couple things. At the dump station, right, that's a dump station. The RV dump station, there was a water before that you could rinse out your hoses and stuff. There's no water there now. Just wondering if we can look into that or if we could get that hooked up.
So Mayor Hoke to Councillor Carter, and actually we had it vandalized and broken underneath. So we're just waiting for the parts, but
Okay.
yes, it definitely going to be replaced.
So it will be up and running once it's replaced.
Absolutely.
Okay. So yesterday, I was at the library board meeting. They're in desperate need of members to join. So they were just wondering if maybe would the town advertise on their Facebook page, possibly just to invite people to come to these meetings and possibly join the library board?
So, Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Carter, absolutely, if they want to give us an advertising, and actually in the newsletter, they actually have a section on our newsletter that we are always encouraging them to put information in. So either option, if
Okay.
they just provide us with something, we can definitely put it out.
Okay. Maybe a signboard in town, could we?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, if they just, if you want to give them my name or Sherry's name
okay,
to
and just
contact.
contact you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also I went to the Bruderheim School council meeting. They're looking for volunteers for their sports day on June 27th. They're needing volunteers to help prepare a hot dog lunch and I think different activities that the principal has going on for their fun day. And I got to meet the new principal that will be taking over, and his name is Dave Armbruster. He's very excited to be here in Bruderheim, and he's from Fort Saskatchewan. That's all I have.
thank you, Councillor Ashley.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, Councillor Carter, you didn't get a copy of the playground?
I didn't get a copy.
Oh.
Paul, he showed it on the
Screen.
a couple meetings ago, but there was nothing for me to bring back to give to council or anything like that. But I did see it.
Okay.
So it sounds like Principal Paul has a copy of that information.
Yeah.
Just a reminder that Lamont County has told us before that the back page of the Lamont Leader paper is for not-for-profits, not just for the town of Lamont, but for all municipalities in Lamont County. So if you give them a call at the county office, they'll post that information on the back page of the Lamont Leader, like looking for members.
Okay, I will pass that along to the ladies.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep. Councillor George.
Nothing at this moment.
Thank you. Information requests, I just had one. It's kind of information, kind of program request. Our Jocelyn is having a parade this Saturday, and I don't know that we've ever attended that parade and or have gotten an invite to that. And is that something that we might want to entertain attending and participating in? I'm just kind of wondering in two directions, to council and to administration, because maybe Pat, you might have some information about that parade that we don't know.
Mr. Mayor, we've never been invited as far as I know.
Yeah, it starts at 11 o'clock and they have a pancake breakfast at 7 o'clock and they have stuff going on all day long, but that might be something, as Strathcona is a very close neighbor. Maybe that's something that we should think about attending in the future. I don't know that we could get organized fast enough for this Saturday, but Councillor Dana.
It's our garden days this Saturday throughout the town, so it'll probably be good to support internally.
Sure, and Garden Days starts at 1:30 and this parade is at 11. Yep, so it was just a suggestion. And that's all that I had for information requests and program requests. We'll start with Councillor George.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Ashley.
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Wayne.
Just a follow up, because maybe it was mentioned last meeting, but was there, I understand you've talked to Lamont Wild for hockey, or Elk Island Wild, sorry. Did they get back to you with what their kind of need for ice times and working through that? No?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, I did meet with them and I will discuss with council at a later time. I just met with them, so not prepared to talk tonight, but
Okay.
I had a really good meeting with them and with the town of Lamont, us and them. So it was good.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Wayne. Councillor Len.
Nothing at this time.
And Councillor Dana.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, and I don't have anything either, so we can move on to the next page. And we're moving on to 8.1, request for decisions. Is that right? And the first one is bylaw 07-2022.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration would like to provide council with an opportunity to repeal bylaw 739-2003, smoking in designated spaces bylaw. That town council gives second reading to bylaw 07-2022, a bylaw to repeat bylaw 739-2003, smoking in designated spaces bylaw. The town council give third reading to bylaw 07-2022, a bylaw to repeat bylaw 739-2003, smoking in designated spaces bylaw. On September 20th, 2003, council passed bylaw 739-2003, the smoking in designated spaces bylaw. On April 7, 2004, Bruderheim Town Council gave third reading to bylaw 746-2004, the smoking in designated spaces bylaw, and there was no reference to repealing bylaw 739-2003, which was an existing bylaw. On November 17, 2021, council passed bylaw 10-2021, a bylaw to repeal bylaw 746-2004, smoking in designated spaces. Council gave first reading to bylaw 07-2022, a bylaw to repeal bylaw 739-2003 on June 1st, 2022. Strategic plan areas, I know we're all excited. We have new ones now. Build a safe and energetic community, safety, health, and welfare of people in our community, pursuing excellence in municipal leadership, Municipal Government Act, Chapter M26, Section 67, references to repealed bylaws, other impacts, legislative and legal, Tobacco, Smoking, and Vaping Reduction Act. Summary, the Tobacco Reduction Act amended the Smoke-Free Places Act 2002. The Tobacco Reduction Act came into effect on January 1st, 2008, which is when the province of Alberta banned smoking in public spaces and workspaces, including 5 meters from doors and windows. The Tobacco Smoking and Vaping Reduction Act, Chapter T 3.8, Section 3 sets regulations on where smoking and vaping is prohibited with relationship to doorways, windows, or air takes, outdoor spaces, and facilities. Bylaw 739-2003, smoking in designated places will be repealed as provincial legislation sets out regulations for smoking and vaping distance and requirements that affect all communities in Alberta. Communication, bylaw 739-2003, once repealed, will be rescinded in the archive records. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. Before we go to get a motion, what threw me off on the agenda is there's 2 number 5s. So then I thought, oh, I must be missing something when I was flipping the page. So I just wanted to point that out. So looking for a motion for the second reading of bylaw 07-2022. Councillor George.
I make a motion that town council give second reading to bylaw 07-2022, a bylaw to repeal bylaw 739-2003, smoking in designated spaces bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor George. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council? Council Wayne.
Does this include chewing tobacco as well, or is this just basically smoking?
Mr. Mayor, the bylaw just referred to smoking.
So
It's
there's
an old
nothing,
bylaw.
there's nothing in regards to anything else other than smoking and vaping.
Mr. Mayor, back in 2003, I'm not sure we had vaping.
No, what I'm saying, in the one the province is putting in place, right? The one that they've done is for vaping and
Oh,
smoking.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, Councillor Lecco, yes, correct.
So is there anything in place for chewing tobacco as well?
I don't believe so, Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco.
Is that something that we would look at, or is that something that we should be looking at as well?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, I think the best practice is about the smoke created by
Okay.
vaping and smoking, that it's intrusive to other people. I mean, we could look at it, but I think the will of those legislation is about the smoke that comes.
Okay, no, thank you.
On the lighter
Thank you,
side of
Councillor Wayne.
things, I
Councillor
got a
George.
spittoon. That's what I'll lend you.
Yeah, did Councillor George have a question? Okay, is there any other questions on this bylaw? Haven't heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed? And that motion's carried. Now we're looking for a motion for the third reading of that bylaw. Councillor Ashley.
That town council give third reading to bylaw 07-2022, a bylaw to repeal bylaw 739-2003, smoking in designated spaces.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Okay, haven't heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed? And the motion's carried. So that's the two motions that were required for that, right? And then we move on to 8.2, Carol Moschmeyer Arena Advertising Policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration would like to provide council with information to amend the Carol Mushmeyer Arena Advertising Policy, SER 097, that town council approved the amendments to the Carol Mushmeyer Arena Advertising Policy, SER 097 as presented. The Carol Mushmeyer Arena Advertising Rental Policy was approved by council by resolution 197, 2018. On October 2nd, 2019, council made an amendment to the policy. At the May 4th, 2022 regular meeting of council, Mayor Hoke made a notice of motion to have this policy amended to include nonprofit advertising. Strategic plan areas, develop a balanced economy, promotion of local businesses and nonprofits that provide services and supports to our community, build a safe and energetic community, an opportunity for residents to become aware of community partnerships or advertising in our arena. Other impacts, policy, existing Carol Mushmeyer Arena advertising rental policy, SER 097. In summary, administration reviewed the Carol Mushmeyer Arena advertising rental policy and made several revisions. Changed the title of the policy by removing the word rental to allow advertising at no cost to nonprofits. Changed the wording in the purpose statement. Under guidelines, changed the number of the placement P1 from 26 to 25 to allow for some nonprofit advertising board placements. Inserted guidelines for nonprofit organizations, provided Schedule A, Section 3 to show 20 placement available in P1 rink boards. Inserted Schedule B document to create an advertising agreement with those not paying for the advertising in the arena. Section 3 shows 6 placements available. Upon approval of the amendments to the Carol Mushmeyer Arena Advertising Policy, SER 097, administration will contact nonprofit organizations and make them aware of this opportunity. The revised policy will be placed on the Town of Bruderheim website. That's everything, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CAO Pat. And we're looking for a motion for the arena advertising policy amendment. Councillor George.
I make a motion that town council approve the amendments to the Carol Mushmeyer Arena Advertising Policy, SCR 097 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor George. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion from council? Okay, Councillor George.
The placement of these advertisements, will they be totally visible along with our paid rental.
Mr. Mayor, through Council Campbell, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council with this motion? Okay, haven't heard none. We'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 8.3 capital budget amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration would like to provide this report to request that council approve the 2020 capital budget as amended. We recommend that town council approve the amended 2022 capital budget as presented. The 2022 capital budget was presented to council on December 1st, 2021 for discussion. The total of the 2022 capital budget was $635,000. The capital budget was funded from MSI of $580,000, reserves of $20,000, CCBF of $35,000. CCBF, just as a reminder, was the old gas tax. The total of the 2022 and previously amended capital budget was $965,000. The capital budget was funded from MSI capital of $555,737, non-MSI grants of $234,263, reserves of $20,000, CCBF of $115,000, other fundraising of $40,000. The total of the 2022 amended capital budget is $987,000. The capital budget is funded from MSI capital of $657,737, non-MSI grants of $234,263, reserves of $20,000, CCBF of $35,000, and fundraising of $40,000. Strategic plan areas: develop a balanced economy, planning and design of future assets, as well as the rehabilitation and revitalization of current assets, create and maintain responsible infrastructure and development, plan maintenance and life cycle repair, build a safe and energetic community, the creation, purchase, and construction of new assets, pursuing excellent municipal leadership, public presentation of the capital budget to allow for public input. Other impacts, legislative and legal, pursuant to section 242 of the MGA, council must adopt the capital budget for the calendar year. Building a responsible capital budget involves allocating resources to meet both today's needs and the requirements for long-term financial sustainability. Several factors must be examined in terms of capital projects. The pressures of infrastructure, maintenance, growth, and new capital projects must be balanced against the impact on future operating budgets, staff resources, and available funding. It's critical to rethink, revitalize, and preserve our capital assets in order to meet community priorities, accommodate a vigorous and resilient economy, and continue to provide the essential services residents rely on each day for health, safety, and enjoyment. The previous approved 2022 amended capital budget is being amended for the following reasons. The application for funding of the lagoon dredging through CCBF was declined. The funding application will now be to the MSI funding stream. The original estimate of $80,000 to remove the sludge for cells 1 and 2 was low. The bids for the work came in higher than expected. One bid offered to clean all 4 anaerobic cells for $102,000. This would be a savings of $72,000 for scheduled maintenance of these cells in 2024. As you know, the cells have been filled with wipes and other items that are not breaking down over the last years with residents working from home. It is not clear whether we could make it to 2024 for scheduled maintenance with the testing requirements mandated both federally and provincially, with cells filling up with unwanted materials. To comply with environmental regulations, the cells must be dredged to ensure that our testing requirements are met. If we don't pass the testing requirements, we would have to initiate dredging of the cells on a reactive basis rather than a proactive basis. As you know, this always comes at a significant cost, and there wouldn't be much time to look for options. Administration is recommending that the additional $22,000 be funded through MSI. Upon council approval, administration will make the approved amended capital budget available on our website and shared with staff. And we've attached the capital budget as amended, the capital budget as previously amended, and the 2022 capital budget, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. So we're looking for a motion from council to approve the amended 2022 capital budget as presented. Councillor George.
I make a motion that town council approve the amended 2022 capital budget as presented.
Thank you, Councillor George. Please remember to turn off your mic, and Councillor Len and Councillor Wayne.
We can't stagger them, so that I don't know, because with the cost raising up, I understand it's a great savings to do it now, but the reason for staggering was the dredging was just in case save costs, or are we gonna lose that effectiveness if we do this?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just communicating with the Public Works Director. He's on vacation. So if you could afford me a minute to ask that great question.
Okay, thank you for that question. And we'll hang on to that thought. It'll come back, and please make sure. And I think Councillor Wayne and then Councillor George.
With it coming out of MSI, so we're obviously not stacking again, or we're not doing any other sidewalks and stuff this as we normally would, that program. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, actually the CCBF funds that as well. And we have, I'm sorry, I don't have that. I could share that with council later, but we have a significant amount of money that we will be doing sidewalks next year with
Okay, so we
and
can,
road repairs.
so we can use that fund as well then.
Right,
Okay.
so CBF has a very limited scope. They expanded that scope. And so we applied for the dredging, but that one didn't come into their scope, but the scope is quite wide for infrastructure there. So
Okay.
sidewalks are definitely how we funded it in the past through there, so.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne, Councillor George.
If we have to do all 4 cells, have we done any sludge depth measurements?
Mr. Mayor, can I get director on phone? Might be easier.
Yeah, because there's more questions coming about judging, so that would be good.
And secondly, we don't want to get into a situation like we had a few years ago where we had overflow into our evap ponds. And
No worries.
There's been an assessment done on the entire lagoon system, and the first 4 cells need to be done. And the floculative cells, which is cells 5 and 6, will need to be done in the next 5 to 7 years.
so Dennis, what you're saying,
Yeah, we can hear you, Dennis.
Oh, okay.
so Dennis, what you're saying is that to prevent our flocculant cells from becoming contaminated, now is the time to do cells 1 to 4, right?
So, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Campbell. So if we do the first 4 cells, once they're done and they're working properly at anaerobic stage, cells 5 and 6 will start to work at an anaerobic or at a aerobic stage, and it makes them healthier. So that would provide us more time in not to have to dredge those cells 5 and 6. If they're not clear on that, I can restate that.
So what you're saying then is that the anaerobic activity in cells 1 to 4 will improve if they're dredged out and regenerated, right?
In layman's terms, exactly, Councillor Campbell. And judging by our depths and our analysis, we can't. So there's an environmental factor here. So if we fail on our BOD, CBOD, and TSS, and we did fail on the BOD to the federal requirements last year, which they understood the things that were going on with COVID and everything else, but we have to proactively manage those cells. And so when we got the costs in to do this, I think it was $72,000, if I'm not mistaken. There was a savings there to do it now versus doing it in the next year or 2. So I think that it's only advantageous for us to take advantage of this now and not wait because we will fail. The amount of solids that are in those first 4 cells, if you can imagine, they're more than they were when I came here 5 years ago.
So according to what I've read on the estimate, you're saying that they're saying there's about 54 metric dry tons per cell, right?
That's correct.
And that breaks down to a sludge value of about 6%, right?
I think it's a little more than that, Councillor Campbell. I apologize. I don't have those documents in front of me. I'm on the cell phone here, but I believe you're close, but it's a little higher than that.
And this dredging and stuff is also entitles and involves all of the agitation, the pumping, the trucking, the spreading to achieve this activity, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Thank you.
And one of the things that we're doing differently than we did, I believe that was 4 years ago, is we used to use what was called 4 years ago. We used what was called centrifuges.
Yes.
And what they did is it squeezed out all the solids to about a 25 to 30% consistency, and it was stockpiled. In this instance, the method that we're using, it's going to come out in liquid form, and it's trucked into area resident farmers that would like that as fertilizer. So it's got a double bang to it. It helps out farmers, and it's a little more environmentally friendly rather than having to stockpile it, try and get rid of it at a later time.
As well as in this activity, we also are able to inspect the liners after the pumping, right?
We won't be able to inspect the liners right down to the bottom, but we haven't seen anything that indicates that a liner is an issue at this point. The edges are good. So I don't see anything further to go for that. We will end up pumping the cells down to about 50% capacity. That's just due to because it's using if you can think of it as a grain auger, and that's exactly what it looks like, is a grain auger. It goes down, it agitates, pumps all the liquid and solids out at the same time. And they also use a fire hose to start blasting the edges and agitate all the solids to pull them out. Are we still there, or did
Yeah.
I lose everybody?
Councillor Florida, did he answer your question?
No, he did. He did. I mean,
Please.
My thing is that if we don't stage it, but if we're doing it now, the only other question is how many more years do we have to wait to do it again? So we don't get caught. with a
Dennis,
big
did you hear
number.
that? So Councillor Florida's worried. He knows we staged it before to spread out the cost. So now that we're doing them all in 1 year, in 4 years, would say the cost is double. How would we manage that?
So this to all of council, one of the things that I've done in the last 3 years, I've actually started treating the first 4 anaerobic cells with nutrients and different types of selective breakdown of solids. We have seen improvement, but because they were so heavily contaminated over the last 3 years, even by adding those chemicals, and we'll call them chemicals for now, treatment, we just can't break them down enough. I would suspect that with the material that we're using now, with the vendor that it's actually Canadian Algae is the name of the company that we're using, and it's in the budget. We put those chemicals in every day, and we do see improvement. But again, as I stated earlier, it's just too far gone over the last few years. I would say we're looking at 5 to 7 years. And again, if council can recall, 4 years ago, I had predicted that we did the first 1 and 2, and we'd have to do 3 and 4 in the next 3 years, and we've actually gone 4 years. But we just can't go any longer. And Councillor Salerdo, I would say the answer to your question would be, hopefully we can get 5 to 7 years and stage those cells accordingly over the next 5 to 10 years to get proper maintenance on them.
Dennis, so you're saying through good chemical management, we can probably extend the life of those to about 6 years then?
Absolutely. And again, we've seen those results. So I'm very confident that we can get that time frame in there. So by doing it now, we should be able to extend the life of doing this. Hopefully in the next 5 to 7 years, we won't have to look at this.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you for the
Councillor
questions.
Flatero, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you for the questions. Any other questions from council on this motion? Okay, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Thanks for helping out, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So now we move on to the pest and weed inspector appointments. We need a separate motion for every one of these.
Mr.
Get your
Mayor,
pencil sharpened up.
administration. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to provide council with information to appoint pest and weed inspectors for the town of Bruderheim as per legislation in the Weed Inspection Act. The town council approved the appointment of Elsie Graham, Strathcona County, as a weed inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. The town council approved the appointment of Robin Schinier, Strathcona County, as a weed inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. The town council approved the appointment of Cole Campbell, Strathcona County, as a weed inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. The town council approved the appointment of Carrie Douglas, Strathcona County, as a pest inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. The town council approved the appointment of Jesse Chrissy, Strathcona County, as a pest inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. The town council approved the appointment of Sterling Kozak, Strathcona County, as a pest inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. Strategic plan areas, creating and maintaining responsible infrastructure and development, pest control and park spaces to ensure safety of those using our parks, build a safe and energetic community, individuals letters sharing strategies for weed control specific to designated area of concern, pursuing excellence municipal leadership, caring for the environment initiatives shared with residents, other impacts, Strathcona County Service Agreement amended June 16, 2020, which includes pest and weed control, legislative and legal weed control regulation 19-2010 with amendments up to and including the Alberta Regulation 125-2016, the Weed Control Act, Statutes of Alberta 2008, Chapter W 5.1, current as of December 15, 2017. The town of Bruderheim incorporates an education component for pest and weed control in our community. With each letter notifying residents of concern, there is accompanying education materials to provide information to the recipient. The initial focus of their work will be on properties that are owned by the town of Bruderheim. The confirmation of the appointments will be sent to Strathcona County and shared with our staff. And we've attached the appointment letters, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll be looking for several motions, and just before we get started on these, maybe next year we could just go by the recommendation of the folks and not have to do an individual motion for them. Is there a way to do that?
Mr. Mayor, sorry, you can't. We checked into that.
Okay, thanks. So everybody's going to get an opportunity. So we're looking for a motion for the appointment of Elsie Graham. Councillor Dana.
I make a motion that town council approve the appointment of Elsie Graham, Strathcona County, as a weed inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
Thank you for that. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council? Councillor George.
These appointed weed inspectors, pest inspectors, they fall within the lines of our budget, right?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Campbell, that is correct.
Thank you.
At the great price that we normally get them. So if there's no other comments, questions, or concerns, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Move on to number 2. Need a motion to approve the appointment of Robin Schneier. Councillor Wayne.
The town council approved the appointment of Robin Schneier, Strathcona County, as a weed inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council with that motion? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Move on to number 3, approve the appointment of Cole Campbell. Councillor George.
That town council approved the appointment of Cole Campbell, Strathcona County, as a weed inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15th, 2022 to December 31, 2022.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion from council? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to that motion? And the motion's carried. I have questions. So we are appointing these folks. What happens if one of them gets sick and then we have to have someone fill in? Do we need to motion at the subsequent council meeting then to approve them before they can go to work?
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. That's why there's a number of them.
Okay, thank you. So we're moving on to number 4 for the appointment of Carrie Douglas. Councillor Ashley,
That town council approved the appointment of Carrie Douglas, Strathcona County as a pest inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
thank you for that motion, Councillor Ashley. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion from council? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to that motion? And the motion's carried. Moving on to number 5 for the appointment of Jesse Creasy. Councillor Wayne.
The town council approved the appointment of Jesse Cressy, Strathcona County as a pest inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion from council? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to that motion? And the motion's carried. Moving on to the appointment of Sterling Kozak. Councillor Dana.
I approve that town council. I motion that town council approve the appointment of Sterling Kozak, Strathcona County as a pest inspector for the town of Bruderheim for the period of June 15, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to that motion? And the motion's carried. It's almost 9 o'clock. Do we need a comfort break? I know that we do. Yeah, well, we're in the middle of that, sorry. So if someone needs a comfort break, could they? Councillor Wayne,
Make a motion for a 5-minute comfort break.
thanks for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council? Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to that motion? And the motion's carried.
I'll make a motion that our delegations go longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah, hold on, hang on to that motion. Right now, we need a motion to go back into the public session,
Okay,
Councillor
I'll
George.
make a motion that we go back into public session.
Thank you, Councillor George. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Having heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to that motion? And that motion is carried. Now we can move on. And Councillor George, you wanted to make a motion right now, or we're going to move on to reports? Okay, thank you, Councillor George. So we need a motion from council to approve the mayor and council committee reports. Councillor Ashley.
That council receive the mayor and council committee reports as information.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ashley. Any comments, questions, or concerns, Councillor Wayne?
When they're put on I guess when we submit them, do you only put up to this past Friday on this? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns other than what was mentioned by Councillor Wayne? Just one thing I wanted to add is tomorrow is the Lamont County Farmer Appreciation Dinner, and I'll be attending that dinner. So just wanted to let you guys know. And the town's not paying for that ticket. So if there's no other comments, questions, or concerns, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Now we move on to 9.2. We need a motion to receive the Chief Administrative Officer report as information. Councillor Dana.
I motion that we accept the Chief Administrative Officer report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Dana. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Okay, yeah, I do have one question. I was just curious where we're at with the intermunicipal committee between Strathcona and Bruderheim's status.
Mr. Mayor, we're just retaining a firm to put the RFP out. So it's been approved by both parties now, both legal counsel for both parties.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council on the CAO report? Okay, having heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Moving on to number 10, correspondence and information items. Need a motion to accept the correspondence and information items. And there's one that Sherry has on her desk that is not on here that I'm not sure how we want to handle that one. Okay, and what that letter is a letter from Shannon Stubbs asking rural communities what their greatest needs are and roadblocks, and bring that back to her so that they can advocate for our communities, small rural communities, what our challenges are, and they will advocate for us. So that's the extent of that letter. So you'll have a copy of that for the next meeting. And so looking for a motion for the correspondence and information items as presented. Councillor Dana.
I motion the correspondence from May 28th, 2022 to June 10th, 2022.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council for that motion? Haven't heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to that motion? And that motion's carried. Now we need a motion to go out of the public session. Councillor Dana.
I motion we go out of public session.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Haven't heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed? And the motion's carried. Now we'll need a motion to go into the closed session. I'm not sure who had their hand up first. Councillor Ashley.
I motion that we go into closed session.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion from council? Haven't heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed? And that motion's carried. So now we're in the closed session.